Okay, so USDJPY, yeah, USDJPY. Swing structure is bullish, yeah. My overall target is to target this weak structural high that we have up here. Now, if you take a closer look at what I have mapped, you can actually see that our swing structure actually shifted bearish for some time right there. But the reason why it shifted bearish was because of the Bank of Japan interventions. So, I'm not going to talk fundamentals right now. But then the interventions don't, it's not the interventions that actually move price, but the sentiments around the interventions, sentiments surrounding the interventions. Okay. There was some argument that was raised in some channel about the sentiment, the interventions moving price and whatever. And yeah, there's that one there. So one theory that I have about price is that it will always follow the path of least resistance. Okay. And one theory that I have, which is specific to UJ, is that it will more often than not pull back to a higher time frame point of interest. So at this point, before we head higher to take out that weak structural high that I have up there, I'm anticipating a pullback, a swing pullback, and say an internal pullback, where one, we have this point of interest, and two, at least I have this one here, or at least to EQ of now the swing range. Okay. So I'll just do this to see which point of interest is closest to my EQ. And I have this one here. So it happens to be a great point of interest. It is a flip zone. Um, it also has inducement, blah blah blah, all that stuff. You know all that talk. So let me drop down to the 4H, then see if I can find time and go through gold once more. Cause now I was breaking down price and nobody could hear me. I doubt the recording actually recorded anything with my voice. Now, on the 4H, swing structure is bullish. I've reset my swing structure to the most recent price action. So swing structure is bullish right here. Why is it bullish? It shifted bullish to facilitate that 4H, that daily swing pullback, because that now bullish leg on the daily, this part of price, was actually pullback in our bearish trend. Internal is also bullish as well, as you can clearly see. And after break of structure, what should we be expecting? A swing pullback. At this point, what I'm anticipating is an internal pullback because this is the price action that is relevant to me at this point in time. Now, for the pullback, one, we had this point of interest right here, which price bounced off of. And you should always learn to look at price in terms of objectives. Now, what am I referring to? When price mitigated this point of interest, it obviously had an objective. And its objective was to deliver price to supply before playing the bearish continuations. So I don't really think this point of interest is going to hold. The one that I'm more interested in is either this one right here or this one down here. I have those two POIs, but I can't really predict where price is going to react from or do something from with high accuracy. I'm all about trading what I see, not what I know. So at this point, I have a bearish objective on UJ, which is to play this internal pullback on the 4H and overally a swing pullback. Yeah, because I'm expecting price to give a pullback before heading higher. I just realized I did not map out previous day's low. So this is why I have my previous day's low. So down to the 4H. On the 4H, swing bullish. We've already had our bearish change of character. Now remember, change of character with respect to internal structure, it simply signals the beginning or the end of an internal pullback. Now, one thing I do differently on UJ is that I never drop below the M30 when mapping structure with reference to, say, say the relevance of time frames. Okay, with the relevance of time frames, like my higher time frame on UJ is the daily time frame, medium time frame is the 4H, and the lower time frame is the M30 or the M15, depending on how the POIs look and I don't know, whatever. Now, remember that talk that I was telling you about on the 4H of a point of interest having an objective around that stuff. So when price mitigated this point of interest, you can see I have something here for a fake break entry model. Now, personally, I don't make use of the LC to A. Okay, let me just move down to the M15 to break it down clearly. Now, we have two models, two confirmation entry models that make use of a sweep of liquidity. We have the confirmation entry 2, which makes use of a sweep of liquidity below a relevant low or below relevant above whatever. Now, in this case, price swept sell side below the strong swing low right here. And because they still had a bullish objective, which was to deliver price to this point of interest, I noticed a bullish change of character on the M15. So my first entry was on the chalk line right here. But doing that, I still had an understanding that price could pull back into this 1H point of interest, and it actually did. At the moment price did that, it gave me a confirmation that now price is willing to go higher, to trade higher. Because you can see fake break, sweep of the low, and a bullish change of character confirmation. So the entry or the trade idea, one, you could either enter on the chalk line. Now, this is why you learn how flexible these entry models that I use are. You can either decide to enter on the chalk line, which if I did, the risk reward would be so low, okay? Or two, you can either decide to enter on a point of interest. And that is how the trade delivered close to 4R right there. Close was about 115 pips actually, blah, 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 all that stuff. And this was the trade idea. So this is a confirmation entry 1, where price mitigates a point of interest and delivers a change of character in your direction or in your favor. The fake break that we had up here was just a confluence, because obviously I want to be looking for liquidation. I want to see people taken out. And for some time, that was actually part of the liquidity. But yeah, now about today's price action. Swing structure already shifted bearish, as you can clearly see, in line with our higher time frame narrative. Our higher time frame narrative is to play the swing pullback. And as you can clearly see, our swing structure on the medium time frame has now shifted bearish, meaning we have alignment of time frames. We have an alignment of time frames. Our internal is okay. Let me just map internal structure clearly. We had this high, then we had this low, sweep of the high. Let me just measure this pullback if it's large enough to be considered internal. Okay, yes, it is. So shorts are now phase A because they are pro-internal and they are pro-swing. As for me, my trading is pretty simple. There are times when you have to reset your structure to the most recent price action. That is what I just did right now, because you see we had that break right there. Then you had a sweep of this high up here. We had the sweep of this high. And after that, we had a protected high. So this protected high becomes my new internal high. And so the internal shifted bearish at this point, making shorts phase A, longs phase D. I'd never want to get involved in anything to do with phase D personally, never. So our week swing low actually happens to be a previous day low, so giving us more courage in entering short. But now, where would you enter from? Because okay, let me just put a pause to that. Let me just put a pause to that and see. First and foremost, I'll just do this for purposes of journaling and then come back and break it down. So, do you have any question up to this point in time before I start now looking for an entry short on UJ? Now, you've actually seen me at times drop to the 1 minute on gold, taking entries, blah blah blah. But on UJ, it never pays to be aggressive with this pair. It never pays because this pair respects structure so much, so much, so much. There's no point rushing it or in trying to look for an entry. Just chill. Price will come back to your point of interest. This price pull Can you hear me now? I just one. Fuck, this thing is really messing me up. Okay, good, thank you. So, as I was saying, my first target in UJ is going to be this low, and eventually, because I'm really not a fan of taking those large trades, whatever and stuff. I just want something pretty simple. Na. I do have a session low within that is close to this refined point of interest. So you see this session low down here. This is the low that I'm going to target. Nice, very nice. Now, first and foremost, it is to determine what 3R is, because that is a bank of most of my profits. 3R happens to be right here. Now remember, unless price gives me a new point of interest within the session, this is the entry that I'm going for. I don't care how long it takes for price to come back to it, so long as my objective is not met. Because one thing I've already told you about UJ is that it respects structure. And this is going to be my target right there. That session low, that previous session low down there. Now, right now, we could either look for an opportunity to target the most, this is a closed target down here. But as I've learned several times, going down to these M5 and stuff on UJ, it has never worked well for me. It has never. I always have losing trades whenever I go below the M15 on UJ. So I'd rather just be patient and wait for this entry than, try to get involved out of fear or pressure or greed or whatever. Now, we're back to gold, my shiny metal. So I guess you guys didn't get whatever I was saying on gold, so I'll just give one more breakdown, okay? So swing structure is obviously bullish. As you can see, we had bullish break, wicks in high, wicks in strong swing low down here, yeah? So after that, one thing you need to notice is that price did give us a nice pullback, mitigated demand. Then after the mitigation of this demand, you can actually see the strong rejection. So such a rejection is a sign, or say is an institutional sign, that actually big money is interested in protecting this low that we have down here, because it's basic knowledge in the system that we use, which is photon trading, where they say swing points are actually formed by large candles with long wicks, blah, 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 all that stuff. You went through the course, you know all that stuff. Now, pullback most likely finished after internal shifted bullish, so we were now looking to target the wick swing high up here. But internal shifted bearish once more. I know this mapping right here is quite tight for an internal range on the daily time frame, but I prefer to pay attention to the most recent transaction. It actually helps you manage expectations of price. Now, the moment internal shifted bearish, it makes this low a weak structural low because it failed to complete its objective. Remember, its objective was to take out the weak swing high, but it failed to do so. Internal has shifted bearish. So now, our objective is to play bearish internal continuations targeting this low down here. Unless, of course, internal again shifts bullish, okay? But then, one thing you should take note of is that after internal shifted bearish, we were looking to play internal pullback. Price pulled back to EQ, swept buy side above this fractal high, but it failed to mitigate supply. It actually did not mitigate supply. So that actually shows you that there is a cause for higher prices, but it's not a strict requirement for price to mitigate a point of interest. However, after this bearish reaction, you can see that this high also failed to complete its objective because we've not had a candle body close below this weak internal low. But this being a weak internal low, we don't really expect much from it. It could just be to provide a reaction into, say, some supply zone before it delivers a candle body close. But to the extent that we still don't have a candle body close, our anticipation is for price to now target this weak structural high, which actually happens to be a previous week's high. So there's that. That's my narrative from the daily time frame. On the 4H, we had a bearish swing breakout structure. We had a bearish swing breakout structure. Price mitigated this point of interest, this fractal supply zone bearish reaction that led to the bearish boss, swing boss actually. So what are we anticipating at this point? We're anticipating a swing pullback. And you can see, okay, in terms of a point of interest supply, that remember on the daily time frame we swept a weak internal low, which I said could just provide a reaction into supply. We have this supply zone right here, and we have this one right here. I don't know which one price will make a continuation from, but I'd definitely go for this one right here, because it does have inducement below it. Okay, inducement. What is inducement? Something that makes someone act before the real move in the market. Down to the M15. On the M15, where now things begin to get clear, our M15 swing structure has shifted bullish. Remember, our anticipation on the 4H was to play the swing pullback. Yeah. So our medium time frame swing structure has now shifted bullish, and it also shows us that there is time frame alignment. There is an alignment between the 4H and the M15, and so price pulled back after this bullish swing breakout structure. Price pulled back to this demand zone at the extreme. It swept sell side below this structural low and previous session low. So this would give a nice LC1 targeting this previous session high, or some highs up there that you can be delusional enough to target. But yeah, my bias on gold on the is bullish. That is what I'm simply trying to put across. So up to that point, is there anyone with a question? Anybody with a question? So on UJ, if you take a closer look at things, our daily candle has now shifted bearish. It means that whatever move we had to the upside today was some kind of manipulation, or its objective was to deliver price to this point of interest before making the continuation. Now, within this session, I'm expecting, if price can pull back to this point of interest, all good, I'm fine. That's my point of interest that I'm looking to. But all I need right now is a point of interest formed through a sweep of liquidity. So if price sweeps buy side above this high and delivers a bearish change of character, I'll take the entry from there. Except this time, I won't be targeting the session low down there, because then all I want from this point of interest forming session is to play that pro-session order flow targeting the previous day's low. But if price pulls back to this point of interest, then I'm holding this trade targeting that session low down there. Yes. Guys, that's pretty much it.